Please do. Lovely, thank you. Let me just click that button as it's right. I can't see all your faces. So please do introduce yourselves in the chat box. It's always nice to know who's here, and share contact details if you wish to receive the notes and information from this meeting. And we can add you to our contact list if you'd like, so just mention that. And if you wish to receive any of our monthly useful updates, which we all gather and collect, so if there's anything going on, just let us know and we can put it on our updates. Jackie will mute all microphones to help manage the distraction of outside noise, and you may wish to turn off your camera if you feel uncomfortable being recorded. Obviously not our speakers, it would be lovely to see your faces, and to help with your connectivity as well. There will be an opportunity for questions to be asked at the end of each session, time allowing. So we would ask you that you type your questions though into the chat box as we go along, and it just helps us manage our time really, really well. And for any questions that we can't answer right in the moment, we'll collate them all. We then send it to our speakers, and then they can do a response, and then we send that out to everybody. So you've got a record of those questions that were asked. We're not able to answer any questions about current or future Hampshire hospital services, but if you want to ask a question, then please pop that in the chat box and we will forward it to the appropriate person. It's virtual, let's not forget that. We may have glitches, but we'll get through this together. Now, the reason we're all here are speakers, and we're so grateful for your time and support. But before we hear from our cancer charities, I'd very much like to introduce Lisa. And Lisa is the Macmillan lead cancer nurse at Hampshire Hospitals. So straight over to you, Lisa.
Thank you. So I just had a bit of technical thing. I had to unmute myself, so I haven't done that before. Anyway, thank you for that, Eileen. And firstly, I would like to just say thank you for Cancer Services Partnership for inviting me today, and for the brilliant work and partnership that they've had with Hampshire Hospitals for a long time now. And I look forward in my new role in continuing that and building on that. So Jackie, if you can share my screen, please. Right, so as Eileen just said, I'm Lisa Young, and I'm the newly appointed Macmillan lead cancer nurse at Hampshire Hospitals Foundation Trust. I started on the 3rd of April, so into I think week 6 now, with unfortunately lots of bank holidays, so it feels like a bit disjointed, but I feel like I'm just beginning to find my feet now. Next slide, please, Jackie. So a bit of my background, I've got 31 years cancer nursing experience. 25 years of that has been as a clinical nurse specialist, supported by majority of that time by Macmillan, and all of my nursing experience up to date has been at University Hospital Southampton, and in my the last 10 years I was Macmillan lead gynae cancer nurse specialist. So throughout my working life, I've been absolutely passionate about cancer nursing and improving services and the experience and care of people undergoing investigations, treatments, and living with and beyond cancer. And throughout all of my time, as they've been supported by Macmillan, so I've really worked closely with those local and national cancer charities. I've worked with national charities from an ovarian point of view and gynecological cancers, and I've worked with Wessex Cancer Trust, I've worked with Jane Scarth House, and I've got a lot of background with Wessex Cancer Alliance as well. Next slide, please. So the Macmillan lead cancer nurse role, well, I've been taking on, there was Vicky Havercroft-Dixon was in place before me, so there's a 2-month gap, but it's to provide leadership to the cancer nursing and allied health professional workforce, and that workforce is growing all the time, and it's about improving cancer patient experience and that personalised care agenda. So really trying to personalise patients' journeys throughout the whole cancer treatment and further and beyond that and out of the acute hospital trust. So looking at developing the cancer workforce, and that includes clinical nurse specialists, cancer support workers, pathway navigators, physicians associates. There's lots of new roles that are coming in to the cancer workforce, and it's about how do we develop them and embed them into our services. It's about looking at the current cancer services, auditing how we're doing, assessing that, and contributing to the HHFT strategic decision making, and trying to streamline cancer pathways, because we all know that the uncertainty and the concern and worry around being on a pathway. We want to make sure that people are attending appointments at the right time, that they're having investigations in the right time, and that once that's been done, we're getting the results of those in a reasonable time, to try and reduce that time from being referred in to actually getting a diagnosis to starting treatment and beyond. Next slide, please. So what am I currently working on? So the biggest thing was meeting everyone involved, and that has been a huge agenda, because Hampshire Hospital, for those of you who don't know, works across 2 or 3 sites. From cancer services point of view, that's mainly Winchester Hospital and Basingstoke Hospital, and within both of those sites there are clinical nurse specialist teams, there's allied health professionals, and all the medical and clinical workforce there, so they are in both sites. So it's about trying to make sure that I'm visible on both sites and that I'm engaging with all of the teams, and lots of meetings. The cancer workforce strategy, so working on that, there's one currently, it's about reviewing those and embedding that into our service. As I've already said about pathway streamlining, there are lots of NHS and government directives that we need to be working towards and following, and that is about reducing the amount of time from referral through to diagnosis and beyond. And then the personalised care agenda, so ensuring that when patients are being treated or investigated at Hampshire hospitals, we are really looking at each person as an individual and making sure that they feel heard and listened to when things are concerning them and what their concerns are. And the personalised care is looking at holistically assessing patients, providing care plans, end of treatment summaries, and back into primary care and those cancer care reviews. Next slide, please. So that's me and my role, and as I say, I'm finding my feet, but I want to be as visible and as approachable as possible. So if people want to contact me, then please do. If I'm not the right person, then hopefully I'll be able to refer you on to the right person. So I also work in conjunction with the Wellbeing and Supportive Care Services that are now on offer at Hampshire hospitals, and that is in association with the ARC Cancer Charity. So they funded this Wellbeing and Supportive Care Centre with services there, and that's available now to all Hampshire hospitals outpatients, and this only began in October last year. So I've provided a link there to the Wellbeing and Supportive Care pages, which explains it in more detail, and I've just written a little bit about the services that they have on offer. So they offer aromatherapy, acupuncture, counselling. We've just deployed a manual lymphatic drainage therapist, I think starting in the next couple of weeks, massage therapies, psychological support and reflexology. And Julie Walsh, who is the lead complementary therapist at the centre, has lots of great ideas about how to improve these services, and it's a real working relationship with the ARC Cancer Charity and Hampshire hospitals. So to access the service, this is a referral service, so it does come from one of your hospital healthcare team. That's either the clinical nurse specialist or the cancer support worker, and that's so that they can refer at the appropriate times for the appropriate services. The lead complementary therapist, Julie, will then triage those referrals and will then get in touch to discuss what your needs are and to make all the needs of the patients and to make an appointment, and she manages that at the moment. Each treatment lasts for approximately 45 minutes, and they are in blocks of 3 and will continue for as long as possible, but I think around 6 of those. And once those sessions have then finished, they have really close links with the support services out in the community, and we'll be able to signpost people to those. So it's an absolutely fantastic service, which is really well supported. And already some really great case studies from that. For instance, a lady who was unable to lie flat for her radiotherapy treatment, and had attempted a few times to do that, went along and had some acupuncture, and was then able to fulfill her 4 treatments of radiotherapy. So that is just amazing that service is on offer. At the moment, it is only for outpatients, and it's only at the centre on the Basingstoke site. So there is travel, but there is parking there. There's parking right next door to the centre. And Julie, who, like I say, triages those referrals, would be able to direct you further during those calls. Anyway, so that's me in a nutshell, and the local service that we offer here. And one thing to say, I'm sorry, but I am going to have to leave not long after my talk, so I'm going to really miss out on listening to all of the support services that are here speaking today. So, but like I say, I really want to link in with as many people as I can to improve the services that are on offer for Hampshire hospital staff and patients. So please get in contact with me, and please feel free to ask any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was brilliant, really informative summary of your role. And it's just lovely for everybody to be able to meet you. I know we've met quite a few times now, and that just demonstrates your eagerness to keep connected to everything out and whoever's supporting those that use cancer services. Any questions? Let me go to the, do you mind popping your email into the chat box, please?
That's asking me to do something that I haven't prepared for, so let me have a look. Type message here, there you go.
Yeah,
I think I've got it. Yeah.
Perfect. So if anybody, as we move through, an idea pops in your head that you'd like to ask Lisa, just pop it in the chat box and we can send them on. Fiona, I can see your hand raised. You're on, yeah, that's it.
Hello. As always, I'm a couple of minutes behind. My apologies for that. Lisa, it's lovely to meet you. The question I have is that I know it constantly changes, but is it at all possible to have some sort of chart of the various teams that there are in Winchester and those that are in Basingstoke and those that cross over both hospitals? Because it's sometimes it gets a bit muddlesome to make sure that we're making sure that everybody is aware of the services that we can provide. And I just wondered if there's some kind of flow chart or something of
that's a really, really good question, Fiona, and I am still trying to work my way around how I do that. One thing I could say, though, is that I do have a clinical nurse specialist email account. So if there was anything that you wanted to be sent out generically to all the clinical nurse specialists, then if that came through to me, I would then be able to send that out via email. But in the meantime, I am trying to find out names and who's in posts in both sites and services on offer and things like that. So that's a work in progress. But I think if things come through to me, then I'm more than happy to send out the appropriate emails to the clinical nurse specialist teams.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that, and wish you well in your post. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I hope your next meeting goes well, and I'll see you soon. We all will see you soon.
I can just see Eileen. Sorry, I was just, but I can see someone called Suzanne's got a hand raised.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Lisa.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I joined a bit late, Eileen.
Oh, right. No, it's fine. Welcome, please.
Oh, thank you. Lovely to see you all. That sounds really amazing, Lisa. When you said about after, say, acupuncture therapy, you then refer to link people in the community. Were you talking about sort of other healthcare professionals or GPs, or were you talking about other therapists in the community?
So what they do is you can have a limited number or a certain number, and then if that's needed, they would be signposted to other services. So it depends on what the need was for that person at that time. They would refer through or signpost to the appropriate services outside, and whether that is back to GP for more formal referral, or whether it's to one of the local cancer support services.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I'm just having a look if there's anything. No, there's just someone chatting between each other in the chat box, which is wonderful to see. So Lisa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you very soon.
Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. So now we move to our agenda after that really interesting introduction from Lisa. So we're going to start off with Fiona. So welcome, Fiona, and Fiona's from the Heartburn Cancer UK. I'll let you continue with your introductions.
Hi, thank you very much, Eileen. Thank you for giving me a platform today to share what it is that Heartburn Cancer UK do and what we do in Basingstoke. And also thanks to you and Jackie, who helped me in the last week provide some support to somebody we were in touch with. It's lovely when a partnership works like that and you can reach out to people and they can provide you information. So thank you for that. I've got some slides that I can share. I won't go through everything. Is it all right if I share screen, Jackie? Yeah. Can everybody see that?
If you just click the little icon at the bottom, on the bottom line, it looks like a toilet cistern. That's the one, an old-fashioned one for us to remember those.
Love your description.
It's not mine. I won't own it. Someone else suggested it.
I can't see it on the screen, but is that's coming up for you, is it?
Not yet. No, it's not gone full screen yet.
There we go. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so my name's Fiona Labrooy and I'm the Operations Manager at Heartburn Cancer UK. We're a national charity, but we're based in Basingstoke. So who are Heartburn Cancer UK and what is it that we do? Well, we're actually 20 years old this year, which I'm quite proud of. I only joined the charity in 2019, but it's been going for 20 years. It was launched by our chair and founder, Mimi McCord, following the tragic death of her husband, Michael, from esophageal cancer. Michael was just 47 years old. And his death, like many others, was preventable if he'd known about the dangers of persistent heartburn and its link to esophageal cancer and a precancerous condition, Barrett's esophagus. Sorry, I'm clicking back again. Precancerous condition called Barrett's esophagus. So the charity's real mission is to raise public awareness about the dangers of persistent heartburn, because so many people don't know about its link to esophageal cancer and Barrett's. We provide support. We've got support groups and we've got an online support group. And we work to increase, we get involved in projects and research that increase earlier diagnosis with the hope of helping to save lives, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. And as I say, we've been going 20 years this year, so I'm quite proud of that. If you're in contact with anybody who's got Barrett's or OC and we can be of any help to them at all, I'll put my email and details in the chat afterwards. Please do point anybody our way. We do have a Basingstoke support group. It went a bit quiet during COVID. We gave an offering to sort of do that support group on Zoom, but our patients weren't very keen in the Basingstoke area to work on Zoom, so that was absolutely fine. But now I'm delighted to say we're on to our third meeting sort of post-COVID, and it's back up and flourishing and running again. So I can give you some more details about that in a moment. So that's who we are. A little bit about esophageal cancer. 8,000 people die from this horrible cancer each year. It's 7th biggest cancer killer. It's got a dreadful prognosis because often it's diagnosed late and the survival, 15% surviving for 5 years, mainly due to late diagnosis. So for example, in 2021, 20% of esophageal cancer cases were diagnosed in A&E. So it's often diagnosed late. So anything we can do to help raise awareness about the symptoms and get people acting on symptoms early is a really positive thing for us. Okay. as I said, mentioned before, the precancerous condition is something called Barrett's esophagus. And that's actually a really good thing if people get a Barrett's diagnosis, because then they're going to be monitored, and if there are any cell changes that could lead to cancer, then that's going to be picked up and helped. So, as I say, what we do, we raise awareness about the dangers of persistent heartburn, encourage people to see their doctor. We provide information and support and education. We're very lucky to have 2 experienced clinical trustees, one based at Southampton, one in Cambridge. And we've got a resident doctor and dietitian so that we can give help in that way to patients as well. We support people living with Barrett's esophageal cancer or reflux and their families. And as I say, that can be anything from them getting in touch with the charity and us providing information or support to them, or them being on our online group, or being one of our physical groups like the Basingstoke group. We also support research, anything that can provide better outcomes to patients with esophageal cancer or Barrett's. We're involved, as I say, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about a new diagnostic test we're involved with in a moment. So anything that improves earlier diagnosis, and we also get involved in things, lots of different research as a patient advocate and as a lay representative. So one of our big initiatives is supporting something called the Cytosponge. The Cytosponge is a new diagnostic test, you can see it pictured there, that will help with earlier diagnosis of Barrett's and esophageal cancer. It was developed by one of our trustees, Rebecca Fitzgerald, and her team at the University of Cambridge. It's, as you could see, it's a capsule on a strong thread about the size of a vitamin pill. It's a pill that's swallowed, expands in the stomach to form a sponge, and then it's drawn back up the esophagus, collecting a wonderful cell sample on its way. It detects early cell changes, and it can indicate if there's Barrett's esophagus or esophageal cancer. Currently, the majority of ways that Barrett's or OC is diagnosed is through an endoscopy. And to be able to do this simpler test, this triage test, will obviously help with earlier diagnosis. Rather than everybody needing to have an endoscopy, they could have this test as a triage. We could case find with it, and we could also help with surveillance of Barrett's. So it's been on the go in development. You won't be surprised to hear about 10 years now, but we're actually now progressing and getting somewhere with this test, so that we really hope that it will be available more widely across the country soon. So compared to the current care plan for people with persistent heartburn, it detects 10 times as many cases. So that's a very positive result, and it's really well tolerated by patients. If any of you who know about endoscopy, it's not the most pleasant experience, and this is so simple and very well tolerated by patients. So the charity believes that this test could really make a difference. We've not seen enough change in the last 20 years to earlier diagnosis. We think the place for this test is really in primary care, so that if you went to your doctor and you had an issue, they could triage and see what was going on there. And if you did need to go for an endoscopy, they could send you. As I said, surveillance of Barrett's, case finding, like with the smear test, poo test, things like that. So people who are at a higher risk, you know, that we could case find with the test as well. HGUK have been involved we provided a mobile diagnostic unit to support with a primary care study during COVID that otherwise wouldn't have been possible. So it started its work as part of a project in June 21. If you happen to be passing absolutely offices at all where we're based, it's actually having a little visit there at the minute. Unfortunately, not to do any work, it's more for us to have its maintenance updated and to do a little bit of PR with it. But it's been in East Anglia since 21, and it's about to go on and get involved in another study. And we've actually just ordered a second unit because we've had a lot of interest from different partnerships around the country wanting to be able to use it as part of different projects that are going on with the cytosponge, and ICBs and cancer alliances who are wanting to use it and involved in different projects. So HC UK, we're also involved in patient and public involvement and engagement with things to do with the cytosponge to help develop the care pathway. And we're working we'd like to see the cytosponge everywhere in primary care across the country. But until that's there, we're developing our mobile unit service just to support any projects and any work that's going on, and to help raise awareness with the unit and have it as a clinical space for having the sponge test. So there's a little capture of the unit there with our chair, second from the right, Mimi, and Rebecca Fitzgerald, who developed the sponge. That was when it launched in 21. So there's our unit. Other things that we get involved with, as I say, patient support. This year, we're looking to develop our support, start some new groups. We've had some funding to help us do that. We get some wonderful support from CNSs and Macmillan nurses. At our recent support group in Basingstoke, we had somebody come and speak about the complementary therapies from ARC, which was really well received. Our next meeting, our next Basingstoke meeting, is on the 9th of June, just in case that's relevant for anybody that you all know at all. So we're working on developing our patient support as well this year, as well as being involved with the cytosponge and our units. Developing our online group and what we can offer on our online group so we can reach more people across the country. And as I say, as well as our GP and dietitian in residence who help provide relevant support to different patients for us, we also have clinical expertise from our professors in Cambridge and Southampton. And it would be wrong for us not to celebrate our 20th year. So this month we're developing our Demanding Hope campaign. That's all about the fact that although there's been some progress in the last 20 years, we really believe there still hasn't been enough. So we're launching our Demanding Hope campaign this month. We've got some wonderful people working and fundraising for us across this year, everything from a 214 Peak Lake District Challenge to a wonderful young lad called Tobias who's walking from Land's End to John O'Groats for us starting next week. Somebody else doing a London to Paris cycle. And as you all know, none of any of our work would be possible without the support of our wonderful fundraisers. We've also got a celebratory dinner at Evolution in Battersea in November. So sorry, I've talked a lot, a whistle-stop tour of what we do to give you an idea of what sorts of things we covered, everything from sort of local to trying to get involved in some national work as well. If any of you got any questions, please do ask away.
Thank you so much, Fiona. That was really informative. And I obviously, CSP follows you on Twitter and Instagram as well. So I see a lot of your stuff, and it's just keep sharing it. And we need to shout and celebrate the work that you're doing. So thank you very much. And always remember, if we can do anything to support as Cancer Services Partnership, just let us know, like networking or anything. Okay.
Thank you so much, because sometimes there are patients, as I say, like the one I reached out about last week, there wasn't an obvious place for me. You know, I'd love to help everybody myself, but you just can't, can you? So thank you for your help with that.
You're welcome. Any questions for Fiona? Would you like?
Yeah, I've always got questions, but carry on something else.
No, we'll go with Martin and then we'll come to you.
Yeah, I'll come after Martin.
Fiona, do you mind unsharing your screen?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
It's
Stop
difficult for me
share.
to see everybody. Oh, there we are. I can see all your lovely faces. Martin, and then we'll come to you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just a quick query. The sponge, once it's retrieved, where does that get analysed? Are all hospitals able to do that, or does it have to go to specialist facilities?
A very good question, Martin. It's a company called Sighted in Cambridgeshire. They're a new company, and they have developed the pathology and the testing to do the work on the sponge and take the wonderful sample off it and provide information back to local GPs to determine whether or not that patient is positive and needs to go for further diagnostic testing and endoscopy, or whether or not their test was fine. So that's where it goes off to. So not everywhere at this company, Sighted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Suzanne?
It was actually quite similar to Martin's. I was just wondering how much you were involved sort of in the funding of the research for the Cyto sponge, because I didn't know much about it, and it does sound amazing. Didn't know how widely available it is, or
it's been available. It's been really well tested. There's been a number of different research programs and tests supported by Cancer Research as well. They've done a wonderful job with it too. And now it's about proving it can save life. I mean, we absolutely know it can make a difference because we know what's coming off the test for it. So it's available in Scotland, for example. It's available across the board in secondary care in Scotland, which is great. In the rest of the country, it's available in some hospitals in secondary care, but we're involved in a new project now. We were involved in Delta, where we provided the unit. Now we're involved in another project which actually picks up. Wessex is involved with this project as well. And it's about cytosponge again in primary care, about surveillance and about case finding. And that's where we see it longer term being of most use, so that you could, as I say, be triaged if you went to the doctor. We know that people, often rightly so, get put on proton pump inhibitors and acid reflux medications, but sometimes there does need to be that check just to make sure that there's nothing else going on. And of course it's a barrier if you have to go for endoscopy, because that's an expensive invasive procedure. So this test would really help with that. So Wessex, Lancashire and Cumbria, East Anglia, all places involved in this next level of test. And then there's going to be even more with a trial called Best 4, which is supported by Cancer Research, again trying to get this into the primary care pathway. So hopefully lots more positive to come on this.
Thank you.
Is it available privately for people to fund themselves?
Unfortunately not. I wish it was. I wish it was, but no, not at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your questions. If anything else pops in your head, just pop it into the chat box for Fiona, and thank you so much, Fiona. So moving on now, Christine from the pink and blue space. Over to you, Christine. Welcome.
Thank you ever so much. I'm here today. I'm actually in a gents' toilet. I can honestly say I've never done a Zoom call in a gents' toilet. There's no men in here with me. We were at our ladies' wellbeing support group this morning, and yes, so there's 40-odd women next door. Hopefully you can hear me though. So I just wanted to tell you a little about the pink place and the blue space and what we do. So we're a Basingstoke charity. We are now 12 years old, and we are located here in Basingstoke, and we offer wellbeing services and support to anyone going through any form of cancer and at any age. And we provide support from initial diagnosis throughout their treatment and beyond. Can I just share a little PowerPoint, if that's okay? Share. So all our services are provided for free. As I mentioned earlier, we have wellbeing services, which we run weekly. On a Wednesday morning, we have our ladies' wellbeing service. And that's a really big session with ladies up to about 35 in total. Obviously, not everybody comes together. We can support up to about 70 ladies, but due to their sort of different therapies they may be going through, their different treatments, they're not all here at the same time. We also provide mindfulness once a week. We used to do this in person. When COVID hit, we moved it online to do it via Zoom. And we've now remained doing this on Zoom, really down through communication to the people we support, that they'd rather actually sit at home. They can sit and relax in their own sort of chair, sofa, or even in bed, some even from their hospital bed if they're in hospital, and they can join an hour. And we take them through the mindfulness, led by a professional person who takes them through a little journey, and it just gives them the opportunity to actually relax and to think about something else, and give them a way of actually sort of trying to cope with their anxiety and stress of having a cancer diagnosis. Complementary therapies, they form a large part of what we do. We're located in the Orchard, which is in town next to the council offices, and we have our own therapy room in there, and we offer a range of therapies. We have volunteer therapists that we provide their services for free, which obviously to us is a huge thing. And so we can offer reflexology, massage, a range of other sort of skin and nail and hair care as well. And people can just contact us and we will book them in. And as I say, that is supported by a range of volunteers who help us with that. Counselling is also available in person and also through the phone. And we have a wonderful counsellor that's been with us from the very beginning. And she comes to a lot of our wellbeing sessions, but as I say, she will also talk to people on the phone if they want to do that. Counselling, we can put someone in touch within a week of them actually contacting us, so it's a really quick turnaround, and she will support them for as long as is needed, and that is available at any time. Yoga is also something we do regularly, so we have a weekly yoga session. And it's run by a yoga instructor that is oncology trained. So she's gone away, done a course on looking after people that have gone through cancer, have had cancer. And so she knows sort of exactly what she's doing, but obviously you have to be a little bit careful. And that's done in person. It's not done on Zoom, but it's done in person. We also have guest speaker talks, and we have a range of guest speakers, professional speakers that will come in, but also people that will come and talk about all sorts of things, whether it's their hobbies, general interest, from different groups and organisations. We also have a secondary cancer support group, which is called our Extras group. And this is particularly for our ladies group. And these are people that have been diagnosed with secondary cancer or incurable cancer. So they can still come to all other groups and all the other things we do, but once a month we take them for a treat. And it may be something special. So we may go pottery painting. We're going to the alpacas next week. There's lots of little things that we take them to. So they feel that they have an extra special treat for them. But more importantly, it gives them time to talk to each other away from the main group, because they've all got those sort of worries and anxieties and concerns that perhaps aren't so important to others within the group, but it means that they can talk to people that truly understand how they may be feeling and those challenges that they're facing. Friendship and support is obviously now a big thing. And I think since COVID, everybody's realised just how much people need people. And we've noticed particularly that sort of since COVID and us all being able to sort of get back together, just how important that friendship and that support is to each other. So when we were started with our Zoom, so once we had the COVID hit, we found a way of being able to communicate and to keep everybody in touch, really. And like so many charities, the wonders of Zoom, we started learning about it, and we were doing up to 9 sessions per week when we couldn't all meet. And it was a way of being able to connect with people and keeping them in touch, because obviously they were going through their diagnoses at the hospital, GP surgeries, etc. No one was allowed in with them. But by us bringing them together 9 times a week, it gave them the chance that they could still see what was going on in the outside world and being able to stick together as a group. And that was really, really important to them. As restrictions eased, we started sort of small meetup groups in the park, making sure we were obviously distanced from each other. And we still meet in the park now and walk and things like that, because again, just being able to talk and walk, we found works really well for a lot of our group members. We do a range of activities in our wellbeing sessions. This just shows a few of the things we do. Craft forms a very important part of what we do. We do craft sessions once a month, and it's all for free, and they can come. And it's not necessarily anybody can do anything. We make sure that it's something that everybody can do, that you don't have to have any particular skills. But it's just, again, the opportunity of doing something with your hands, but also giving you the time to talk as well. And you're quite relaxed. You don't perhaps feel quite so threatened and overwhelmed by things that are going on around you, and it gives you the chance to relax your mind and your body and just have a quick chit chat. We organise days out, so we do coach trips, as I mentioned, to the alpaca farm. We're going to Brighton in a couple of weeks. We've been to Bournemouth. We went to the Bath Market at Christmas time. So lots of different things that we take the people out on. We have so many amazing volunteers. All our complementary therapists are oncology trained, and we also have refreshment volunteers for our wellbeing sessions, cake bakers, and volunteer for our events. Without our events, we wouldn't be here. Without people volunteering to help our events and us running our fundraising events, it's such an important part of what we do. And we really are so grateful to everybody that does that. I'm just going to stop sharing now. One part, that's mainly for the pink place. The blue space, this is comes under the umbrella of the pink place, and this is for men. So this is a group that we particularly support men going through cancer. And again, it's any cancer. Much smaller group, and men are so difficult to reach out to and to find a way of offering that support. If I may, I'm just going to show you a little video from one of our men who's happy to talk about why he comes to the blue space and what and how he's feeling about what we do. Let me just share the screen again.
I think while you're sharing, I think it's something we all think about, Christine, how to support people to speak.
It is so tricky, and I'm sure Martin from Posse, he'll be more than, I mean, you know, that is a men's group. And we have found, particularly since COVID, before COVID, we had a group of about 12 to 15 men. As soon as COVID hit, they didn't want to go on Zoom, which is understandable. And then trying to engage with them back now has just been so hard. And we've tried all different things. We've tried having snooker nights run by men for men. We've tried sort of meeting in a local pub, seeing if people would come along to that, and it's just been not at all successful. So what we started doing, we have a pop-up group in Alton on a Friday, twice a month, and that's a mixed group, and it's the only group we do that are mixed. And we run and encourage the men to come to that group on a Friday. And this guy, David, who's going to have a little chat in a sec, he's one of the people that comes to that group. But again, it's a real tough call trying to get the men to actually come and join in. But if I can just play this just quickly.
Hi, my name is David, and I like cake. These are my first words at the Blue Space Alton, and yes, they do lovely teas and coffees and cake. And let's wind the clock back on why I was at Alton Blue Space. Early 2022, I noticed I was tired and having to sleep during the day. This, together with going to the toilet as many 7 times a day, diarrhea, being uncomfortable when I sat down, I started logging my toilet trips over a period of time, as well as other symptoms, and then went to my GP, who referred me to Basingstoke Hospital. And in early May 2022, I was diagnosed with cancer of the rectum, and I had a colorectal surgery 3 weeks later. I was informed there was a slight chance of having a stoma bag installed, and when I woke and found out I had one fitted, was a bit of a shock to the system, because it was never part of the plan, but a necessary part. During the operation, I was confirmed that the cancer was towards the rectum. I had some 8 inches of my bowel removed with 3 lymph nodes, and for good measure they took my appendix as well for future upsets. The support medical attention was first class, and I was discharged to start chemo on the 1st of August. As you can imagine, you never start the beginning of the year with a Christmas list and include this sort of thing. But you have to go with it, because the alternative doesn't bear thinking about. And I've subsequently had a reversal operation and now stoma bag free. During various chemo sessions, it was mentioned that the Blue Space at Autumn would be worth a visit, and they too said that cake was on offer. I spoke to my director of recovery, who is my wife, who was very supportive, so off I went. Turned out I was one of 2 men and 8 ladies, and we sat, ate cake, chatted about our journeys, and learning was shared, as well as a lovely hand massage, which helps my peripheral neuropathy, which I can't say properly. And it was so relaxing. It was great to have a relaxed, formal chat with the Blue Space team and other members about the various challenges that life throws up and how to tackle them. And it was the mere fact that I was not alone. On my journey home, I relived the morning and realised that sex of the attendees was not as important as the shared experience. But the overriding thought was, where are the blokes? If you look at the government statistics, there is a high level of occurrence of cancer, and it's equally split across sexes. But the survival rates are definitely leaning towards the ladies, which started me thinking, us blokes are slow on the uptake of discussing this type of subject. As a direct result, the death rate is higher in males. Surely it can't be that us alpha males think we're bulletproof, because I know cancer is not that selective and it will arrive when least expected, when it wants to. Since starting the journey, I've been speaking openly to friends and work colleagues, and the result of which there's been 5 people diagnosed with bowel cancer and are having or waiting for treatment. 2 of them are married in their 70s and are both having cancer treatment for the exact same issue. It's a very simple process involved talking to men. We don't like leaflets, we don't like adverts. I think talking is the way to do it. I talked to one guy about who had refused a PSA test, and his reason for refusing is you don't know what they're going to find out. And I did point out to him that was the essence of why you have one. Since then, he's had a test. So I believe we need to work with local groups like football clubs, Rotary, Roundtable, etc., and spread the word to men. As ignorance is not bliss, it's a killer. I believe face-to-face conversation is a route to accessing the male psyche, so we can start a new revolution. Across the various organisations, we could target all groups we think will be ideal, and together agree a presentation so we have a single message on the same hymn sheet, as well as press releases to regional publications. I'm still going regularly to the Blue Space for the cake and the fellowship, and confirm I'm in remission, but still recovering from 2 operations. I'm currently working hard with a specialist sports coach who is experienced in cancer patients and intend to complete a 5K park run on Christmas Day. So let's get the blokes to Blue Space Autumn, where they too can have their cake and eat it.
So I think sort of David really sort of talks about the essence of how men just are very tricky to reach out to, which is such a shame on so many levels. And yeah, and I don't think we have the answer, but it just needs people talking really, and needs men to talk, I think.
Thank you, Christine. That was really, really helpful, sharing all the information about the Pink Place and the Blue Space, and absolutely that powerful video from David. And I think if there's any questions, because of time, but I don't want to stop people asking questions, pop it in the chat box. However, I'm going to throw that challenge from David to all of you. Let's all work together and try and see how we can together get men to talk. Now, Martin will constantly be at you. How can we do this? And I think it's something we can get together at another point and talk about and come up with a plan. And we can do that in collaboration with the Blue Space, and perhaps come along to one of your sessions to start that conversation. And Martin, perhaps you can come with me. But, you know, let's talk about that. And if any of you are interested in joining that, please reach out to us, because I think that's really a really powerful challenge that he's put to us. I think, you know, I would say that absolutely. So thank you. Thanks very much, Christine.
Yeah, just to quickly say, David actually did this for this particular meeting, so he hadn't sort of I just sort of spoke to him yesterday, so it's just off the cuff, and he said, yes, here you go. So he feels very passionately about it. Thank you.
And thank him very much from us, and I'll send an email as well if you could forward that to him. That'd be great.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks. So we're going to move on now to Laura. Please.
Hello, thank you.
I'll let you introduce yourself, Laura.
Perfect, thanks Eileen. Hi everyone, I'm Laura, and I would love to talk to you all today about a charity called Brains Trust. We support anybody impacted by a brain tumour diagnosis, so both people that are diagnosed, but also their loved ones, caregivers, family members, and we also support anybody with a secondary tumour, so we cover brain mets as well. So I will bring up my slides. I'm mindful that most of us here could talk for hours and hours about everything that we do, so I will try and keep things concise and just give you sort of a flavour of who we are and what we do. So first of all, we are a national charity. I cover what we call the Central South. It's quite a big patch. It includes Hampshire. My barriers are sort of Dorset up to Oxford, across to West Sussex, and I try to sort of divide my time between all of those patches, try and sort of organise as many face-to-face events as we can in the year. And in terms of sort of brain tumours, just very generally, we know that there are over 120 different types of brain tumour, and our charity supports all of those different types. So whether it's a lower grade or whether it's the highest grade, so non-cancerous and cancerous. So I thought it'd be quite nice just to have a slide of smiling faces. So this is our support team at Brains Trust. We're a small team. We're made up of 7, and we all cover various areas of the UK. This is our, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is our founder, Dr. I should add her title there, Dr. Helen Volbeck, and she launched or founded the charity in 2006. Helen's daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumour. She had treatment. She's thriving now. She's got a couple of children of her own. But what Helen and her family found was they felt very lost. It was very unclear as to whether they could access any sort of emotional support and where, and they didn't have kind of any knowledge of anybody being in the same boat. They really didn't know where to turn to. So that's a really big reason why Brains Trust was set up, and it's a real kind of mission for us that right from the point of diagnosis, we want to make sure that people know that we exist, know that they can connect with others who are in a similar boat, and kind of don't feel alone in this kind of very life-altering diagnosis. So that's a big part of our mission. So we have lots of fantastic information resources. Everything that we publish is co-written with healthcare professionals, patients and caregivers. So we want to make these as relevant as we can. So for example, we have a resource on managing fatigue, and that explains how brain tumour related fatigue differs from normal tiredness. People find this really useful to share snippets with their employers or their loved ones, just to sort of give that wording of, you know, this fatigue it's very different, it's very debilitating. And in that resource, we've also worked with a clinical psychologist to include some quite helpful strategies. So that's a really popular resource. I won't run through all of these, but everything that we produce is very much off the feedback of our community. So for example, behaviour and personality change is very, very prevalent for people with brain tumour diagnoses, so that felt very important. We send out something called a brain box, and this sort of includes all of our resources, and we send that out right at the point of diagnosis or at the point where somebody finds the brain stress charity. And as well as guides, we fill that with all sorts of goodies. One of our HQs is up in Leeds, so we send Yorkshire tea bags. We send little sort of brain-shaped stress balls, which people enjoy. So that's a nice sort of entry into the charity that we can send people's way. Like many of us here, we have quite a strong online support offer. What we found was at sort of the start of the COVID pandemic, we set up these groups, and actually it really worked because we are UK wide, and it meant that we could be joined by people living in Cardiff, Glasgow, Hampshire. We could really kind of bring people together. So what we have is tumour specific online support groups. For example, for lower grade tumours, meningiomas, acoustic neuromas, because we know the experience of each different tumour is so unique, and even, you know, people's experiences within that diagnosis is so unique. But people, they're very well attended, people really benefit from connecting, and so in Hampshire, I've been running a few workshops with the Oakhaven Hospice down in Lymington, and we're also hosting one in June. And I will send around details of this in case anyone is interested or would like to pass it on, at Southampton Maggie's. And these are on all sorts of topics that we know are really relevant to our community. And we also have expert speakers that join us each month. So for example, last month we had a nutritionist, and she delivered 3 webinars. One was on the ketogenic diet, really popular subject for our community, and she talks about energy management, and really kind of in-depth information, which is really helpful. What we also have is a hypnotherapist called Louise. She's fantastic. She delivers online sessions. She used to work one-to-one for us, but we found that the online format in a small group worked quite well. So that's something else that we offer. A big part again of why brain stress was set up is because there was found to be a real lack of connection in the brain tumour community. So a part of the service that I lead on, and it's probably my favourite part of my role, is our peer support service. So this is completely facilitated by our fantastic peer support volunteers. These are people living with a range of brain tumours. We have a fantastic peer supporter who was diagnosed 12 years ago with a grade 4 glioblastoma, and she's very popular, as you might imagine. When people are diagnosed with a glioblastoma, your world turns upside down. Lots of people are looking for hope and guidance, and speaking with Rachel can just give people some light, really, in a really kind of dark situation. So our peer support service is very popular. Our peer supporters connect over the phone, but also via video calls. We have been successful in some areas where a local peer supporter is able to meet up face to face as well, which has been really lovely. And recently I asked our peer supporters to write up a sort of about me, like an online profile. We sort of joked it's a little bit like a dating profile, but we've got these up on our website, and they just introduce kind of who our peer supporter is, what kind of experience they've had, and why they want to be a peer supporter. So this is Andy, and this is one of our caregiver peer supporters, Laura. So that's a really lovely part of our service. The final things to talk about is our types of one-to-one support. So all of our support specialists in the team are trained in coaching. So whistle-stop tour of coaching. We listen some more, we ask open questions, we ask people what's most important to them. And often it's things that are outside of their clinical care. So, you know, it might be for a caregiver, it might be how do I fill my own cup? You know, how do I put my own oxygen mask on before I care for my loved one? And we ask what people are struggling with most in order to help them to prioritise what they want to work on, and kind of help them to work out what are those baby steps towards getting where they want to. So one-to-one coaching is a great part of our service. I won't play this video, but hopefully we'll be sending slides around. So that's talking a little bit more about coaching. It wants to play. We can also set up counselling for our community. So we have funding that allows us to fund 6 sessions for everyone we support. So that's both people living with brain tumours, but also their loved ones. And I'm sure lots of us here are aware of counselling and what that is and how that can help. We get really excellent feedback. Often someone might have their 6 sessions of counselling, have had a really supportive space to talk things through, and we might then in a month's time, a couple of weeks, set them up for coaching. They've got a clear idea of these are the things I want to work on. I just need to find a way to get there. I need to have this kind of accountability or space to explore. So we have quite a nice kind of pathway in that way. And I'll sort of run through our clinical engagement. This is such a big focus for us at Brains Trust. It's really important. We engage with a number of neuro-oncology teams across the UK, and really we want to be not adding to the healthcare professionals' workload. We want to be lessening the workload. We want healthcare professionals to feel really comfortable referring to us, knowing that we will very quickly be able to speak with a patient caregiver. We'll be able to set up emotional support, psychological support, and just kind of fill those gaps, really, and just, yeah, we're all about collaborating. So this is a really big kind of mission for us, is just to make sure that people know that we exist first and foremost, and they know what sorts of support that people can access through Brains Trust. We've recently started working with the Tessa Jowl Academy to deliver some very kind of cover some specific topics that we know healthcare professionals in the neuro-oncology space find very relevant. These are very interactive sessions, so there's a lot of space for group discussion, questions. So that's, yeah, a really important sort of arm of what we do. I did want to include a link here. We have a monthly newsletter for healthcare professionals, and it just includes updates about kind of expert speaker webinars that are coming up. There are different links on there, so you can directly refer to Brains Trust. So I thought I'd include that link. And there are things that I've not talked about. So everything's outlined in our support catalogue. When we send the slides around, this is hyperlinked. So this will take you to our kind of full catalogue of everything that people can access with us. And that is everything I have time for. So thank you for listening. Thank you so much, Laura. That was really informative. And there's so much happening. Crikey. And I mean, now we will share this all out, and it's for others to, you know, share onwards and then really explore and share themselves. So thank you very, very much. Is there any questions from anybody for Laura? But there was so much information there. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you. An overload. Oh, not at all. Email. Not at all. It was just fantastic. Rebecca. Definitely have a few patients we can refer to. Oh, that's great. And that's the power of having sharing sessions like this and being able to network. That's great to hear. Thank you, Rebecca. So, Laura, thank you very much indeed. And thanks for your time. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon. So on to our next speaker is Sarah. As always,
Lovely to see you. And
Hello, and to you. Lovely to be with you this morning, and thank you very much for inviting her. I'll be delighted to give you an update on Romsey Cancer Support Service, Jane Scarth House. I must just say before I start that I keep being told I've got a very unstable internet connection. So I've opted not to do any screen saving because I think if I do that, I will lose you completely. So apologies. I'm just going to, my plan is to try and get through some information for you without completely going, disappearing. So we'll try to do that, and fingers crossed, okay? So as I said, my name's Sarah. I'm the charity ambassador here at Jane Scarth House. The charity itself has been going for 28 years now. Based in Romsey, but covering a much wider area. We don't have a geographical restriction as such, and we invite people to come and see us and have a lovely morning or afternoon out in Romsey if they'd like to come and visit the centre. So we offer a wonderful place of calm in the heart of the community, and it's a very comfortable space away from a clinical setting, as far away from a clinical setting as you can be, really. Our centre is open from 9 till 4, 5 days a week, and we support both patients and their family members and carers who are over 18 years of age, and all our services are offered free of charge. And I'm pleased to say we do have quite a few male clients, which is brilliant. I have to say sometimes it's quite difficult for them to potentially come in through the door the very first time. And quite often it's wife or girlfriend or partner that brings them in. But once they've come in once, they always come back. So I think it's giving them the opportunity to come in, have a chat, and make them feel comfortable. And I think once they do start talking, they're more inclined to keep going. And once they speak to other men, I think that really helps as well. So reinforcing everything that Christine was saying as well, and Martin previously too. We offer a very warm welcome and a friendly ear, and it's somewhere where you can come and talk about anything in confidence, and it's a safe place to let go of your emotions. We offer our clients the choice of all of our services. So we feel that at this very difficult time, sometimes people feel quite devastated when they have a cancer diagnosis. We like to give them back an element of control. So we will let them know exactly what we have to offer, all of our range of services, and then we allow them to make the choice of what they would like to try and to move around our services as they go through their journey and as things move forward. So we are fully accessible. We have ground floor access, and the centre is basically consists of a large befriending area, welcome area where you first come in. I would be showing you photographs at this point, I have to say, but I just daren't. 2 therapy rooms, 2 counselling rooms, and a lovely courtyard garden. And we also have a large studio space, which we have group activities as well. We're quite well served in Romsey with public car parks, which is quite good, well priced as well. It's just £1 for 2 hours here. And we also have Waitrose and Aldi supermarkets very close, so people can actually take advantage and do their shopping and come and visit the centre at the same time, which is lovely as well. So our services, what we offer, so we do counselling, a range of counselling services. We have 4 counsellors working 5 days a week, and we can be very flexible on appointments there, appointment times. We do quite a range of complementary therapies, which are very popular, including reflexology, aromatherapy, Indian head massage, Reiki, oncology massage, and of course, manual lymphatic drainage massage techniques, which is, as we all know, hugely in demand across the area. But yeah, we're very pleased to be offering that too. We also do meditation and mindfulness, and we do that face-to-face and online. A lot of our services are available remotely as well if people aren't able to come in and see us. And along with some of our partners that we work very closely with, we're able to offer Qigong, emotional freedom technique, which is tapping therapy using acupressure points, which is it's a really interesting new service we're doing. We do regular clinics for welfare and finance, and also legal advice. And we also offer the Macmillan Hope course on a regular basis as well for people who have finished their clinical treatment and are now starting to move on and look at moving forward for the rest of their lives as well. We also offer bereavement support and bereavement lunches on a regular basis as well. So clients can drop in anytime for a chat if they want to, anytime between 9 and 4. The door is always welcome, and they will receive a very warm welcome and a nice cuppa from one of our lovely volunteers as soon as they come in. So apologies for the lack of the slideshow. I'm very sorry, and the slideshows have been brilliant this morning, so apologies for not being able to do that. But if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And we can still share your slides if you send them to Jackie.
Yeah, okay.
Have a conversation. I mean, that was just so informative, and I think we can all visualise everything that you offer. And it's great to hear that chaps come along and are talking.
Yeah.
So you need to join in and tell us how some of the things you do to hook them in and get them to share.
I think it's an ongoing challenge, isn't it? It's just to try and network with your local groups. I think Men's Shed, Rotary, as it has been said before, and just to let them know that they will be welcome, and there'll be other men there, you know, that they'll be able to talk to hopefully as well. I think that's important. But thank you very much. Thank you.
As always, thanks very much too. And now we're going to move on to Katie from Wessex Cancer Trust.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, fine, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Am I able to share a presentation? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Hang on, let me.
There's always that moment, isn't there, where it never seems to happen, then bang, it suddenly does.
Are you? Is that okay? You can all see that? Perfect. So I am speaking today from Wessex Cancer Trust. Thank you for inviting me along. This is a presentation that just sort of does a whistle-stop tour of who we are, our history, who we can help, how we can help, our amazing volunteers that I'm sure, like many of us, we couldn't survive without them, and how we're funded and our local centres. So who we are a charity who provide practical and emotional support for people living and affected by cancer. So that can be the person who's affected themselves or their family members. We only don't support young children of family just because we don't have the specialist skills to ensure that we do that safely. And we are a very small team, but we are here to help, and hopefully if you've got any questions at the end of this presentation, I will be able to answer them for you. So our vision and mission, so we are a charity that's ambition is a future where everybody who's affected by cancer can access person-centered support. Our mission is through this supportive care and information, we seek to improve the emotional and physical well-being of people affected by cancer. Our goal, which is our strategy really that we've recently looked at and amended, is that everybody in Wessex affected by cancer will have access to high quality in-person emotional and wellbeing services within 15 miles of their home. So that obviously isn't just us, it's any charity, but we have done a huge scoping exercise which has identified areas that are lacking in cancer support, and this is where my role as project manager comes in, as we are trying to expand these outreach services so that we can get into those areas of deprived areas. So this is a brief overview of our history. I won't sort of go into too much of it as I'm conscious of the time. And as Laura said, I'm sure we could all talk about it for lots of time. But so we were founded in 1981, and then all the way through to today, where our outreach services have launched. And in 2021, we had our 40th anniversary, which is an incredible milestone. I wasn't here then, but as I'm sure you can all agree with how everything is at the moment, reaching 40 years is for a small charity is a huge achievement. So with COVID, we got online, like many of you others, fairly quickly. So we had delivered in-person support, and then we went online just so that we can continue to offer the support to people so they weren't feeling left in a limbo. So again, who we help. People at any stage, so that could be diagnosis, treatment, remission, and end of life. And that could be families, friends, carers, and anybody affected by their diagnosis. We do find that people often access us right at the beginning or right at the end, once they've sort of had time to digest everything that's gone on, and they then take a step back and think, whoa, what just happened? Actually, I do need support. I thought I was fine when everything was going on, and now I've taken a step back and really thought about things. I on reflection, I could be beneficial of some counselling just to process that emotional, trauma and upheaval that this diagnosis has caused. So how we help our cancer support centres. So we have 4 cancer support centres. So Chandler's Ford, which is our head office, which is where I am speaking to you from now. Bournemouth, Waterside and Hythe, which is beautiful, as you can imagine. You've got beautiful views there. And in Newport on the Isle of Wight. We also have the outreach services. So currently we've piloted that in Andover. And we're looking at branching our online services so we can support wider communities such as Dorchester and others across Wessex. So within our actual physical support centres, we offer befriending. And this is a drop-in service that any client can access. And our befrienders are lovely volunteers. They are people who may have used our service in the past and have since been cancer-free, which is amazing. And as I said before, we are so reliant on them. They're all amazing, and they're trained in active listening, so we can really provide that tailored support. And they, after a while with our repeat clients, really have built a strong rapport. So it's really nice to see repeat clients walk through the door, and they're often drawn to a particular befriender that they've formed a strong relationship with. And when you come into the support centres, we really do aim to create an environment which is like stepping into your living room. So each centre is slightly different in regards to the atmosphere, but we all have sofas. You're welcomed with a lovely befriender. You can have a cup of tea and a biscuit and a bit of cake if you want. We just try to create that relaxed environment whilst also running sessions alongside of that. So you can then access counselling services, complementary therapies, so lymphedema massages, really popular, reflexology, soft tissue massage, and then also we have walking groups. Our Bournemouth Centre has an amazing craft group, and so it just really dependent on the clients. We really try to build up sessions that are suited to our client base and our clients' individual needs, as each area is slightly different. So this presentation, it says about our local centre being in Chandler's Ford because that's where I am currently. But again, that just goes through that we have a walking group here on a Wednesday, coffee mornings, and you can drop in for the befriending, or you can book an appointment once you've been onboarded. So clients get onboarded by a wellbeing chat with our lovely wellbeing coordinator, Phil. And similar to a cancer support worker, he will go through your individual needs, and then sort of create a care package what we could offer within their local centre. And Phil goes, he's amazing. He goes to Andover, he goes to Chandler's Ford, he goes to Hyde, Isle of Wight, and he's just, yeah, he's fabulous. This is a person of a client story. I will send it all to you so you can have a read of it later, if that's okay. But that's just about a client and how his story and how he came about to see us and how it was beneficial to him. So again, we have a men's only group. Our men group Men Talk is hosted over Zoom, but is also at the Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth. This is a very popular group that we have. Again, we've tried to approach it in a way of how can we get men to engage? Oh, a football stadium. So that's how we went down that route. But basically, it's a group for like-minded gentlemen to get together to really talk about their shared and lived experiences, so they can feel heard and validated. So our transport services, so we have something called the Daisy Bus, and the Daisy Bus offers free transportation for patients getting to hospital appointments from the Isle of Wight and the Channel Islands, so to Southampton and Portsmouth, and it is a very well used service, and we're very proud of the Daisy Bus. It's just an extra arm to what we can offer in a physical centre. And it's fantastic, really. Obviously, when you have a cancer diagnosis, you could have a loss of income, and that comes other stresses. So by having this, it really allows hopefully some ease of, the stresses of hospital appointments. Hopefully we can just take away something like that, and it will make things a little bit easier for the person. Our Sing for Life choirs, so Sue runs this, lovely Sue, and we have a choir in Cosham, we have a choir in Salisbury, we have a choir in the Isle of Wight, and another choir, and it's just, again, a group of people to get together. They say they're not that professional, but they are amazing. Their concerts are incredible. They run very regularly. Sue's an incredibly passionate leader, and their concerts are very, they're booked out, they're well attended, and it's just a way of people to get together, talk if they need to, and also to just get some enjoyment through singing and music, which is, can bond people. Oh, so that is a video that Laura has experienced, wants to play, but it's a overview of the centre. So if you have time and want to look through that, I'll send it through to you. But it really runs through our Chandler's Ford Centre, what it looks like, so you can get a real feel for what we're trying to deliver rather than just me speaking. But this is our outreach services. So Andover. So our Andover drop-in is every Tuesday, and it's within their health hub at the Chantry Centre. So the health hub was initially set up as a vaccination centre for the primary care network at Andover, but it's now they're trying to transform it to become a real hub for people of the community. So we have just started being there, and our aim is to get as many people involved, to get as many clients as possible, so that the people of Andover are supported with cancer services, because there is barely anything there. We host craft sessions there, befriending and pre-arranged wellbeing appointments with Phil, our wellbeing coordinator. Now, in tandem with this, we are developing our online resource, which we're hoping to make as a care package for people. So within trying to expand our outreach, we're very aware that with resources, we need to ensure that we can support as many people as possible, but make sure that support is a complete service and that they get as good support as they would do in one of our permanent centres. So by improving our online resource, we hope that we can provide a full care package. So that could be things like sound therapy, counselling, any mindfulness, and also things like Tai Chi and online yoga. But again, that's currently in its infancy. We do currently offer sound therapy, which is a very, very well taken up. Yeah, so this is sort of going to transform very soon. And these are a little bit about our volunteers. So we have the befrienders, the shop assistants, office support, receptionists are drivers of the Daisy buses, and any volunteers who are helping us with fundraising and our fundraising events that we have. So this is just a little bit about how we're funded. So we're a registered charity. Fundraising events are 5 shops that we have, individual corporate donations, legacies and grants. And that's the end of my presentation. So I hope that was useful, and please ask any questions if you have any.
Absolutely, was incredibly useful, Katie, and very informative. And wow, what facilities. Absolutely. Sarah's popped a question and she comments, what a wonderful facility for the Wessex region, but it all seems to be down mid-Hampshire and south. So her question is there an equivalent service for residents in Basingstoke, Alton, and going a bit further south, Petersfield as well? Is there plans to stretch up further?
So in regards to Basingstoke, no, and that's just on the basis of how well covered with other services it is. Whereas Petersfield has been raised in our scoping exercise that that is an area that is lacking. So in regards to outreach services, yes, we will be looking at going to Petersfield. And so we're currently in Andover, Dorchester is going to be next, and then it will be Petersfield. So yes, it is. Petersfield is definitely on the cards.
Yeah, that's great. And I love the idea of the online services. That's going to be great because, you know, that's going to be easy access for everybody. And I think that's something we can definitely really push and promote. Yeah, as with all of the, you know, charities, as we always do. So no, that's really, really helpful. Thank you. Any other questions from anybody? I can't see any hands. No, that's great. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's great. I often get lots of updates from one of your volunteers. And that is Jackie. So now, Fiona, please. Thank you for coming and joining us. I'm just going to tell us about Victoria's Promise.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to the support services that are available in the area. And I say, which I've said on many occasions before, there's an awful lot of support that's very widely needed, and a great range of support, which if we all watch what support each of us are giving, rather than duplicating it, then we can cover all that space. And we know how difficult fundraising is and getting in the funding that is needed. So I really do stand from a point that I think it's terribly important to find out what support is out there so that each of us are able to offer our own pockets of support that will cover all the needs of people going through this extremely difficult journey of cancer. So if I may, I'll start a little bit talking about where Victoria's Promise started, its reason for starting, little about myself and what we're doing to try and fill some space within the needs of those going through cancer in our location. So Victoria's Promise is just turning 9 years old. The charity was started to uphold a promise that my daughter had my son-in-law and I make when she was going through some very rigorous treatment for a very rare cancer that she was diagnosed with. And that promise was that she wished to get better, to be able to go on and support other young women through their cancer journeys. Unfortunately, she was unable to do that in person, but we went on to uphold that promise and form Victoria's Promise 3 months after she passed. What we're there primarily to do is to empower young women and their families through their cancer. My personal background is that I had cancer myself when I was in my 30s, and my son and my daughter were age 6 and age 9. And so I have a full understanding of what it is like as a young mother to be concerned about the stability for my children and key members of my family, should I not make it through my cancer, but also during the journey I was going through with cancer, and the need for stability within the home and amongst the family members. Later in life, and actually in the what was 3 years before my daughter was diagnosed, my husband was diagnosed with a brain cancer, and I was his prime carer for 2.5 years until his passing. So I deeply understand what it is like as a partner caring for someone you love while they go through their cancer journey. It was actually 10 months after my husband's passing that my daughter, at the age of 29, Victoria, was diagnosed with her cancer, and I went through what was actually a shockingly short journey with her as a loving mother, and a very close relationship that we had, and being her prime carer, even although she was in a clinic at the time, while she went through and passed of her cancer. So I have very deep understanding what it is like as a mother to go through and bear the pain and the challenges to pick yourself up from losing a child to cancer. It was just 2 years later that my brother, my absolute rock, and became more and more of a rock through my losses, was diagnosed with his cancer and died 6 months later. So I understand from the position of a sibling what it is like to lose one of your siblings. So I can say with my hand on my heart that I feel extremely blessed to be in the position that I'm in, to be able to support young women and their families through cancer from a place of deep knowledge and understanding. So we have a good board of trustees. All of those are on board because they too come from a place of lived experience within the cancer sector. We did start off Victoria's Promise due to my daughter having been a beautician and part-time model. We did start off fulfilling what her wish was at that stage. She was leaning towards easing the journey for other young women with cancer by helping them to look in the mirror and not feel that they're just being seen by everyone as a cancer victim, but to help them to be able to look in the mirror and see their true selves. And so we started that by helping them with skincare, wigs, makeovers, helping them with their eyebrows, their eyelashes, and all these areas. And we did a lot of studying on who the best service providers for this were, which included Jennifer Young with a fantastic range of skin products that they brought out. However, going back to my early comments when I started speaking today, I very quickly found that there was another very, very good charity in our area that was taking care of most of that aspect for women of all ages. And so rather than duplicating, we moved on and we listened to the needs overall of these young women and their families. And we started moving much more into the emotional and practical support. And by that, we raised funding to be able to help with counselling for the young women and members of their family, and trained beauticians to be able to do oncology massages whilst ladies were going through their treatment, and a number of other areas, house cleaning, child minding, and emotional support by bringing them together as a group of young women where they could meet others that were going through journeys that were relevant to theirs due to the challenges their age groups particularly had them facing. How to find the energy to look after their young children, how to hold themselves together in their fears and all those areas. So we moved much more into that area. As we've gone on over the years, I personally have taken more courses, have spent a lot of time trying to understand the cancer space from all sorts of aspects, and have, as I say, taken more courses, studied and learned to make sure that I am very well equipped to be able to hold deep conversations with these women and to be really able to get to the nub of what it is that's going to best ease their journeys. So whilst we've been evolving, we've moved more and more into my personally meeting with the young women and their families, really getting to understand them, how their family operates, and seeing where we can best step in to ease their journey and to stabilize the family members and the home environment. And this is the area that we're going more and more into. And so we are, if you like, going deeper rather than wider. And I hold some space for some very, very difficult conversations, either in the home and sometimes on our Zoom. And those Zoom webinar links are always found on our Victoria's Promise app, which is our national aspect of Victoria's Promise. We have well over 650 women in the age range of 18 to 50, although I will say the majority are early 30s to about 46, 47 years of age. And they hold conversations between themselves on this safe space that we have created away from social media. And that safe space is there for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was, for instance, an incredible conversation that went on the weekend before last that started at 3:24 in the morning, where a young woman that had recently been diagnosed and had just had her treatment mapped out to her was lying awake in fear. And by 5 in the morning, there had been 9 other women that had responded to her, that were able to add very useful, calming and assurative and informative comments back to her. That app also offers for women all over the country to be able to reach out and find someone that's maybe got a rare cancer that they've got, where they're feeling very isolated because in their area they can't find anyone else that has that cancer. So I really appreciated when I was hearing from the Heart Trust about, Brain Trust, excuse me, about their passion, and particularly Laura's passion for peer support. It's an area that I'm extremely passionate about myself, because peer support offers such an incredible amount. We all know that when someone is diagnosed with cancer, that it throws them into chaos. Now, we all come from a different part on the whole spectrum of where we like to sit between chaos and order. But to be in a healthy position, we need to have a balance of it. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, you get thrown straight across to the far area of chaos. And what is so important for people when they're diagnosed with cancer is to take them from that chaos, which creates isolation, and that isolation creates fear. And so our prime objective is to pull them back in to a sensible balance between chaos and order, help to relieve their sense of isolation. And by doing that, we lessen their fear and we bring them into a place as best we can to find positivity in their journey. Studies that were taken 30 years ago in the States absolutely prove categorically that if you can instill positivity in your cancer journey, you lessen your chances of reoccurrence. And that's something that we all want to try and aim for with all the people that we're trying to help aid their journeys with cancer. So I hope that's given you a little insight on where we come from. I'm more than anyone, and I'm sure all of you here, I shouldn't say more than anyone, are very, very keen for us to share the services that we can each give so that we can remember that it's not about us as charities. It's about why we're each here as a charity, which is to help the journeys of each and every single person that is going through cancer. So thank you. I think I've shared most of what I want to help you to understand about Victoria's Promise. I'm sure I've left loads out, but I'm always here if anyone would ever like to speak, and if you've got any questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, as always, Fiona. There's some lovely heartwarming comments in the chat box for you. And I think, if anything, you know, you've mentioned peer support, and that was mentioned by Laura as well. The power of peer support, and there just doesn't seem to be much of it around. It's developing, it is there, but it's about making that a safe service that can be provided for people. And hopefully it is getting recognised. It is now being very much recognised by NHS England, and there is some training being developed to be able to support people properly as peers, which is really positive, because for all the reasons that you said, without doubt, helping that positivity and having a peer to be able to do that with is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, thank you, Eileen. I think there is one other thing that I would just like to add. In my learnings and in my place of understanding and the journey that I myself have gone through, I have no fear holding conversations with young women that are not going to make it through their cancer journey. And I can hold very safe space for raw conversations. And I did this just 2 weeks ago again on a group call about passing, the journey of life and the cycle of it, and learning and understanding that you can't hide in fear. You're in fear, but you can't hide from the fact that we all are born, we journey through our lives, and we all reach the end. Now, a lot of these people, obviously, primarily the people that I'm talking with, coming to their end of their journey much earlier than we would see as the length of time that they should be here, and very much, you know, their feelings of their time being ripped away from them far too early. But I help them to understand as best I can what their fear of that is and how we can address those actual fears. 9 times out of 10, of course, it's about missing out on their children growing up, and not being there for them, not being able to see them go to senior school, the pain of not seeing them as adults, not being there for their weddings, for them becoming parents themselves. And it's important that we're strong enough for them to be able to help them to voice those fears and speak of them, because the more you hold in, the more anxiety and dis-ease that you're holding in your bodies, which is not good for your overall being.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think another point, if I may, is about, and it's something CSP, and you know this, Fiona, is very much about, is about keeping us all together, so we work together and provide all the services, but don't sort of work as silos.
Yeah.
And that's something very much, it's separate from CSP, but it very much started because of CSP, is we have a support group, charity group lead meeting just about every other month or so, maybe a bit more, that we bring the leads together for all of these charities and support groups, and then we can share and then come up with plans of how we can do things together differently, learn from each other, and really talk and explore the challenges that we all have as well. So if anybody here wants to come along to that, just let me know and I'll put you on our list. It is really, really useful. So thank you. And thank you all for your supportive comments in the chat box for Fiona. And I'll catch up with you very soon. Fiona, we need a coffee again.
We do. We do, and I'll look forward to it very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, the next item on the agenda was to be Layla. Now, sadly, Layla is unwell this morning, and she does send her sincere apologies, and I'll be catching up with her again this afternoon. Now, do have a look at her charity online. We will share, obviously, it was already shared on the agenda anyway, the link to the charity, and she very much will be coming along to another meeting and sharing everything that they do. So I'm going to sort of move on straight to Kate. And you perhaps weren't expecting that, Kate. Hello. So I'm going to let Kate introduce herself. So over to you.
Thank you, Eileen. I wasn't expecting that at all, and I was just typing up a great long spiel of things that I wanted to say because I've got to go very shortly, so I'm going to do a really quick one. But hello everybody, my name's Kate Rawlings and I'm the partnership manager for North Hampshire for Macmillan, taking over from the lovely Sheila, who you may well know, who's retired last month, and she sends her regards to everybody. She's not been able to get round absolutely everyone before she went, but yeah, I've got a very similar background to Sheila, if you knew her or know her. I mean, I'm quite moved actually sitting here listening to this, and Fiona, you know, that was really quite powerful listening to all of that. And I think, like many of us, I too have a very deep understanding of cancer and the impact that it has. As a cancer nurse, my background is I've been a cancer nurse for nearly 25 years. My husband sadly died of a brain tumour a few years ago. I've lost both parents, I've lost a sibling, I have a sibling who's currently going through a cancer journey, and I have lost friends too, sadly. So I really feel quite touched by the heartfelt sharing that's happened, particularly Fiona. I mean, I had to turn my camera off, I'm not ashamed to admit, but I think actually it's really powerful, and this is why these groups are so important. So yeah, thank you so much for including us. So I have got a presentation that's quite enormous because it's a Macmillan presentation, it's not mine. But what I'll do is just talk to one of the slides, which is a bit of a summary, but I'll share them in the chat as well. Bear with me, sorry. If I send that, I'll just, I typed it, so I'll just press send. Right, share screen. Right, so I think, as I said, I've shared it into the chat as well.
Thanks, Kate.
Right, okay, so I mean, obviously Macmillan are a national cancer charity, and we cover the four nations, and we're probably most famous for funding Macmillan nurses. I was a Macmillan nurse for a very long time, 20 years, but actually there's so much more that Macmillan offers. We have sort of these five pillars of support, these areas that are our focus nationally. And I suppose the thing to say is that there is always the ethos of that partnership working. So everything that Macmillan do around all of these areas of support are to do with working in partnership with other people. And the first port of call for a lot of people that are affected by cancer is either the website or the Macmillan support line. So that's kind of the go-to, and particularly if you've had a new diagnosis of cancer, or if you've got a suspected diagnosis of cancer, that's something that a lot of people are signposted to, and you may well have experienced that yourselves. The Macmillan support line covers lots of areas, and it's often a signposting area. So sometimes people will ring up for a one-off conversation. There's a really good bit on the website that has kind of what's in your area, so it's the more local offer. And I know, I haven't looked recently actually, but I know from working as a cancer nurse, I would often go on to that area for a patient while I had them on the phone and see what other cancer charities or what other services were available in that area. So if it was something they could physically go to or connect with that was local to them, then that would always be kind of preferable. There's always a lot around fundraising, as for all cancer charities, all charities. Lots of email campaigns, so that's something that Macmillan works very strongly with. I mean, linking in with people like NHS England, Health Education England, but also it's kind of any campaigning, working with patients and fighting, you know, waving that flag, banging that drum for whatever it is that's needed. Volunteer services, so that varies massively across the patch, and it has evolved, I think, over the years to include many more things. So volunteer services outreach into other things as well, which is brilliant. Macmillan have an offer of being able to access wellbeing coaches, so you can actually have sort of one-to-one coaching that is to do with kind of maintaining, learning about your wellbeing and how to live well. Macmillan professionals, as I said, so people think of Macmillan nurses first often, I think, but it's also, it can be, a Macmillan professional can be a doctor, it can be a GP, it could be a radiographer who's delivering radiotherapy, and part of that sort of, the benefits of being a Macmillan professional is they have access to learning and development and all the supports that Macmillan offers. So that, again, it's that partnership working. Cancer information centres, so I know that we have a bit of a gap, don't we, in North Hampshire around some of the cancer information centres that are available in other areas. I don't think we have that. I'm quite new to Hampshire as a geography. My background was that I was in Berkshire in the Thames Valley before, so I'm still getting used to this area. So any links or anyone that wants to talk to me would be brilliant, as I'm learning more about this area. And then there's a really big focus on money and work. So I think what is really important is that patients and families know that they can access Macmillan for funding, a one-off grant, and that's also offered to Macmillan professionals as well. So there's a lot of investment around that, so that's, and you can access that through the Macmillan website or through any Macmillan professional. And specifically information around financial and welfare rights, benefits, advice, work support, so really important in terms of prehab and rehab. You know, understanding, having those supportive conversations with patients and their families around their current financial situation and the impact that their cancer might have on it. So whether that's needing to stay in work, or whether that's coming away from work for a period of time because of their cancer and their treatment, and what that looks like, and what support's available. And again, all of this is for across all cancer sites. And then particularly energy advice. So I know that the advice around that has been particularly kind of welcome and is accessed quite a lot at the moment. And I mentioned welfare benefits advice as well. The drive for Macmillan currently, and then kind of the national cancer strategy that drives a lot of the care around cancer, is around personalised care. So I mentioned, those supportive conversations. There's a lot around how that kind of shapes the care planning and the navigation around that, the cancer kind of experience for patients and their families. And the clinical nurse specialists and other support staff, the kind of wider workforce, are really well supported by Macmillan, and the drive around supporting those conversations to help with the care planning is huge. So there's a lot of investment and support around that. And again, not just in the hospitals, but out in the community, the practice nurses, the GPs, there's a wider cancer workforce that's really kind of coming together the last few years. And as we come out of the pandemic, kind of understanding what matters to patients and really kind of putting that at the heart of everything that we do. And a lot of that comes through in the professional learning and development that we offer as well for those Macmillan professionals. And hopefully, and the front and centre is the patient, the family. How can we make life better for those people? End of life care we do support, and obviously traditionally Macmillan people think of end of life care, palliative care. So we are obviously still involved in supporting areas of that. And thinking about the emotional and practical side of things, which, as we know, is absolutely huge. So there's a lot of support available and planned support. So there's a lot of investment around cancer information and that side of things. So that's sort of coming. That's been, as we've had the pandemic and we've come through that, it's been the psychological support needs have just skyrocketed, and so that in some ways is more of a focus than the physical for an awful lot of people. And then working with volunteer schemes and things like that. So and Macmillan currently have an offer of counselling through Bupa. So that's an example of some partnership working where patients can access either through their Macmillan professional, or they can access through Macmillan directly some counselling through Bupa, and that's provided free. So as I say, I think, are you able to see these
yeah,
slides? Have they come through all right?
Yeah, they come beautifully, and we'll share those on. And so
brilliant. I'll stop the share because it's a bit of like
thank you.
Death by PowerPoint, isn't it? But
cool. And I think we're all very familiar with Macmillan, but sometimes it's always useful to dig deeper, really, because I think it's lost a little bit. And that is an invaluable website. And I think there's also something that isn't really promoted by lots of other areas, is the focus on equality and diversity. So a lot of your information can easily be translated straight away to other languages at a click of a button, literally at a click of a button.
And that's come a long way in a few years, actually, because I remember we used to have to, it was quite, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that information translated. But it is, I think, we have tried to listen to what, the patient voice and what people are saying they need. And so I think Macmillan are, I'm quite new to Macmillan as an employee of Macmillan, but I think that is something that has got much better, is the inclusion side of things. Yeah,
it's very well used. I'm hearing a lot of chatter about
good.
No, that's great. So thank you very, very much. Thank you for joining us. I hope Well, I think that brings us to the end, and I'm very conscious of time. If there's any questions that you have for anybody, quickly pop them in the chat box, and we will say goodbye. Thank you to all of our speakers once again. We won't be having a bi-monthly in July. We're going to have a pause and then come back to you in September. And the focus of that is something we have often talked about. What is the support out there for families of all ages and caregivers? Now, a lot of you have mentioned that already, but I think it would be really good to have a strong focus on what is out there. So that is any ideas, any connections that you have, please, please, please help us to pull that together. And if again you want to speak about specific support that you offer for families and caregivers, please let us know. And we look forward to seeing you in September. Until the next time, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for including me.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Yeah.
I've